For decades, Marie had lived alone in a small house on the outskirts of a picturesque village. She was Christian, deeply devout, and each morning she would rise to pray and meditate. But that night, at 3 o'clock in the morning, her sleep was suddenly interrupted by a piercing scream. Intrigued, she got up and listened intently. The scream continued, a desperate melody echoing in the night's silence. Marie, her heart pounding, rose and made her way to the front door. Upon opening it, she discovered an unexpected scene. A small wicker basket had been placed before her door, and inside was an adorable little girl, wrapped in a blanket. Surprised and moved, Marie knelt to examine the little one. The child had blonde hair and bright eyes, and her face was streaked with tears. Marie immediately understood that she needed to act. She gently picked the child up in her arms and rocked her, trying to soothe her cries. Marie searched for clues to understand how this baby had ended up here. Beside the basket, she found a handwritten letter that revealed the tragic story of the child. The mother, unable to care for her, had decided to entrust her to someone who could provide a better future. Touched by this story, Marie felt a wave of compassion wash over her. She began to pray for the little girl, asking God to grant her the strength to raise her and offer her a life filled with love. As the days passed, the little girl became the center of Marie's life. She named her Emily and gave her all the love and support she could. Together, they discovered the joy of simple moments, morning prayers, walks in nature, and laughter that filled the house. As Marie raised Emily, she realized that this unexpected encounter had transformed her life. That baby's cry, which had echoed through the night, had become the beginning of a beautiful adventure, a new mission she had never imagined. 3 days after finding little Emily on her doorstep, Marie received an unexpected visit from Claire, the daughter of a close friend. Claire, 19 years old, had just returned from Canada, where her father had sent her to continue her studies. Upon her arrival, she seemed nervous and preoccupied, but Marie greeted her with the warmth she was known for. As they settled down for tea, Claire discreetly watched little Emily, who was innocently playing on the rug. Her eyes lingered for a moment on the child's blonde curls and deep gaze, but she quickly turned away when Marie noticed her interest. The conversation continued with general topics, life in Canada, Claire's studies, and the news from the village. But gradually, Claire began asking subtle questions about Emily. How is she, Marie? Is she healthy? Doesn't she worry you, especially at night? Marie answered proudly, speaking of the love she had for the little one and the blessing the child represented in her life. But one particular question from Claire surprised Marie. What if, one day, Emily's mother comes back to claim her? What would you do? Marie, perplexed, thought for a moment before replying. If Emily's mother returned and proved that she could care for her daughter, I think I would have to consider what's best for the child. But in the meantime, I am doing my best to offer her all the love she needs. A heavy silence fell between the two women, and Marie couldn't help but wonder why Claire seemed so concerned about Emily's fate. But before she could ask, Claire suddenly proposed something unexpected. Claire stood up abruptly. Listen, Marie, I want to help. Let me give you money for Emily. For her needs, her clothes, anything she might require. Marie looked at her in surprise. Claire, that's very generous of you, but I can't accept. This little one is under my responsibility, and I want to do what's right for her. Claire insisted, placing a thick envelope on the table. Please, Marie, accept. It's important to me. I just want to make sure she has everything she needs. Marie took the envelope, her gaze scanning Claire's face, searching for answers. But Claire immediately closed off, changing the subject and avoiding any prolonged glance at Emily. When Claire left the house that day, Marie remained perplexed. She was sure Claire was somehow connected to little Emily, but she didn't yet know how. The mystery remained, and Marie promised herself to uncover the truth while continuing to protect and cherish the little girl now under her care. After Claire's departure, Marie couldn't stop thinking about the young woman and her strange behavior. Claire's insistence on offering money, her marked interest in Emily, and especially the troubling question about the possible return of the baby's mother left Marie confused. Days passed, but these thoughts continued to haunt her, and she became increasingly convinced that Claire was hiding something. One evening, as she rocked Emily to sleep, Marie made a decision. She needed to know more. She knew Claire's family well, and the idea that this young woman might be involved in Emily's abandonment troubled her deeply. The next day, she visited a longtime friend, Madame Bertrand, who lived in the neighboring village and had always kept an eye on the community. If anyone knew something about Claire and her family, it was her. Upon arriving at Madame Bertrand's house, Marie was greeted with a warm smile. After the usual pleasantries, Marie didn't hesitate to bring up the topic that was bothering her. "Claire came to see me a few days ago," she began, "and I couldn't help but notice she was very concerned about Emily. It was strange, you know?" Madame Bertrand nodded, her eyes sparkling with curiosity. "You know, Marie, I heard some rumors about Claire while she was in Canada." Marie sat up straight, her interest piqued. "Rumors? What rumors?" Madame Bertrand lowered her voice, as if to add an air of mystery. "It seems she got pregnant over there. But her father, you know him, he's strict and very concerned with appearances. Claire returned from Canada earlier than expected, and since then, she seems very different. There have been many speculations, but nothing confirmed, until now." Marie's heart tightened. You believe Claire could be Emily's mother?" Madame Bertrand shrugged. "I don't know, Marie. But that would explain a lot of things, wouldn't it?" Back at her house, Marie couldn't stop thinking about her conversation with Madame Bertrand. The idea that Claire could be Emily's mother seemed more and more plausible. It explained her unusual interest in the child, her nervousness, and her attempt to provide money. But why hadn't she just confessed the truth? A few days later, Claire came back to Marie's house, this time with a more determined look. After exchanging a few pleasantries, she took a deep breath and said, "Marie, there's something I need to tell you." Marie's heart raced. She knew the moment of truth had arrived. I am Emily's mother. I'm the one who left her at your door that night. I got pregnant in Canada by a man who abandoned me as soon as he found out about the baby. My father, he must never know. He is so strict and unforgiving. I couldn't tell him. I was scared, Marie. So scared. Claire started to cry, unable to hold back her emotions any longer. Marie approached her and held her in her arms. "I knew there was something, Claire. But you should have told me sooner." "I know," Claire sobbed. "I didn't know what to do. I didn't want to abandon my daughter, but I couldn't raise her under those conditions either. I thought by entrusting her to you, she would have a better chance." Maria remained silent for a moment, thinking about the situation. Finally, she spoke softly but firmly. "Claire, Emily needs her mother. I'm ready to help you, but you need to be honest with yourself and with her." Claire's tears intensified, but this time, there was a sense of relief in her weeping. She knew that, despite all her mistakes, she had a second chance to make things right. After confessing the truth, Claire felt both relieved and terrified. She feared her father's reaction if he found out the truth, but at the same time, she was determined to resume her role as Emily's mother. Marie, always kind and understanding, offered for Claire to stay with her for a few days, giving her time to think about the best way forward. In the days that followed, Claire began spending more and more time with Emily, under Marie's supervision. The first moments were awkward, with Claire feeling overwhelmed by her own child, but Marie was there to guide her, showing her how to care for the little one, how to rock her, feed her, and play with her. Little by little, Claire regained her confidence, and the bond between her and her daughter grew stronger. Emily, who had initially been hesitant, began to smile and reach out her arms to Claire, recognizing her as her mother. This simple yet meaningful gesture deeply moved Claire, and she realized the importance of the role she had almost abandoned. Marie, for her part, continued to play a crucial role, not only as Emily's protector, but also as a guide for Claire. She reminded her of the importance of honesty and love in her daughter's life and made her understand that, although the road ahead would be difficult, she was not alone. One morning, as they were all sitting around the table, Marie took Claire's hand and said, "It's time for you to make a decision, Claire. You can't stay here forever." Claire nodded, her gaze filled with determination. "I know, Marie. I think it's time for me to take control of my life. I want to be a mother to Emily, a good mother, and I want to give her a better life than I could have by hiding her away." Marie smiled, proud of the strength Claire had found within herself. "You've made the right choice, Claire. But remember, you don't have to face this alone. I'll always be here for both of you, you and Emily." The following days were filled with preparations. Claire made the courageous decision to speak to her father, despite her fear of his reaction. She knew that hiding the truth would only prolong the pain and the lies. With Marie's help, she wrote a letter to her father, explaining everything, from her pregnancy to the abandonment of Emily and her decision to re-enter her daughter's life. She ended the letter asking for forgiveness and expressing her desire to rebuild their relationship, but this time, with complete transparency. Once the letter was sent, Claire felt a weight lift from her shoulders. She knew her father's reaction was uncertain, but she was ready to face the consequences of her actions. More importantly, she was ready to be the mother Emily deserved. A few days later, a response arrived. With her heart racing, Claire opened the envelope with trembling hands. The letter was short, but full of sincerity. Her father, though initially shocked, expressed his willingness to support her and welcome Emily into their family. He regretted his strictness and promised to do his best to correct the mistakes of the past. Claire broke into tears as she read those words, relieved to know her father was ready to accept her and her daughter, despite everything. It marked the beginning of a new life for her, a life where she would no longer carry the burden alone. With the support of Marie and her father, Claire committed to building a happy future for Emily. She found a job in the village, allowing her to stay close to Marie and Emily while working to secure a stable future for her daughter. The bond between Claire, Emily, and Marie grew stronger, forming a real little family, united by love and mutual support. And so, a new life began for Claire and Emily, a life full of promise, where each day was a new opportunity to grow together and build a future filled with happiness and peace. This story reminds us that, even in the darkest times, there is always a glimmer of hope and the possibility of reconciling with ourselves and with those we love. The bonds we form throughout our lives, whether familial or friendly, are what sustain and guide us through difficult moments. It is with this message of love, forgiveness, and resilience that we close this story, hoping it inspires you to believe in the power of second chances and the strength of family ties.